Everyone. So we will be continuing the Tekton series today with the core component workspaces, which is nothing but shared space or storage or resources we can say throughout the pipeline. So let's go to the GitHub repository and under workspaces. So if we see this particular workspace resource, so basically these are the resources that will be getting shared among the task whatever we create. So for example, one of the resources persistent volume. So let's say one of the task runs created by the pipeline have some output that needs to be shared across with the different tasks. So that's why persistent volume is there to save the data, or a config map that needs to be shared among each other. And similarly, secret can be there. So we will be creating the persistent volume claim and the config map. And then coming to the workspace pipeline. So this is the pipeline. So in this particular pipeline, we are passing one of the parameter app-name. The default value is this if nothing passed. And then new configuration is there in the spec section. If we specify workspace, and in the workspace, we are passing the name of the workspace, like what will be the name of the workspace. So we are giving it a name of source, and then the build config, and then registry credential. So for this particular workspace registry credentials, it is set to true for optional, which means we can avoid this particular workspace in one of the pipeline run when we execute if we don't want it. And then the task for this particular pipeline is like, so first task is write simulated source files to the shared workspace, which means the task name is write source, and it is utilizing the two workspaces, which is source and config. And then the task specification is like, again, it is choosing both of the workspaces, the parameters app-name for which the values are coming as a default, and we can change it as well during the pipeline run. And the steps for this task is like using the same Docker container image Alpine and getting the environment variable value for this app name. And the script is very basic. So first of all, it is printing like writing source to this directory, which is the path for that persistent volume, which will be getting created. And then in that particular persistent volume, two directories are getting created, src and test. And then we are simulating application code. So we are just writing a main.go file. Inside it, we are providing this particular code just to print hello from and the app name. And then we are creating a make file, and then we are just testing it and then building it with go build, and then reading code from the workspace. So we are just reading the code from this config.yml file that gets created once we build it and all. And then we are just doing source tree, like basically finding in the particular workspace the type of files and all. And then coming to the task 2, which is like read source from workspace and build it. So basically in this particular build for in this particular step, what we are doing, uh, we are running it after the write source, that is after this task. This particular task will be getting executed, and we are referring to all the three workspaces here. And in the task specification, we are like utilizing all these three workspaces, but for the credential, it is again marked to true for optional. The parameter is same, and the result is artifact path, like path to the build artifact in the workspace, like whatever which is getting built in this task will be the result, and the same container image. And in the script, we are just reading whatever the code was simulated and built, and then we are building the config, like the config YAML file is there, and then we are creating new directory dist and writing some of the writing some of the data in the same directory. And then we are giving executable permission, the artifact variable is set, and afterwards we are just checking if any secret credential is there for which that workspace is present. So since we have set it to optional true, that's why it is checking whether that particular secret is present or not, or that is found or not. Then only it should run, or else it will print this output like no registry credentials skipping push. So the image will not be pushed. And then afterwards, we are just verifying the artifacts exist in the workspace, like which artifacts are present. So in this particular task, it is doing the same thing, like find into the workspace the type of files and check everything and print all the files persisted across all the tasks. And then the pipeline run is there. So in the pipeline run, we are just referring to the pipeline we will be creating, the parameters, value we will be passing, the workspaces that we want to use. And if you notice here, we are just passing two workspaces, source and build config, which are like persistent volume and the config map. And we have omitted the credentials since we don't want it for this tutorial. All right, so I have already cloned this repository, and inside this repository, I will move to the workspaces part. So here I'm having all the YAML files. So let's move to the reference guide and go to the workspaces, and let's start creating all the objects. So first of all, I will apply this resources YAML. So this is nothing but the persistent volume claim and the config map. So I have applied it, and we can check the PVC is there or not. So as you can see, PVC is there, and it is expected to be in pending state because once the pod comes up, then only it will be getting bound with the persistent volume, which will be get created. So yeah, so that's why I've mentioned it will be pending until a task claims it. And now we are applying the pipeline. So kubectl apply pipeline is there. Now if we can check tcan pipeline list. So this is the pipeline. Since pipeline run is not created, that's why it's not executed yet. And we can describe it tcan pipeline describe. So yeah, it is having these three tasks, these three workspaces, and the one parameter. And now we are applying the pipeline run. So once it is applied, we can check the logs of it. Before that, we can just list 9 run list. Okay, it is running, and let's check the logs for it. So as you can see, it is reading from the source files found, those files were created, build config, and these are the artifact. And yeah, so these were the artifact and these were created and all. Yep. And after this, we can just inspect the workspace bindings in the pipeline run. So if you run this command, get pipeline run -YAML and check for the workspaces. So these are the workspaces binding. And we can check the PVC as well. So as you can see, it is already bound now because persistent volume get created once we create the pipelines and all. It triggers the pod and all. And then show workspace types, emptyDir variant. So basically, emptyDir is like we are just passing this parameter name as emptyDir and the workspace name and all those configurations. So you can play around with all these things. And if you want to try with that another what we say another workspace which was related to the secret, you can create the secret and then ensure to uncomment the secret workspace section from the pipeline run YAML. So you can uncomment this and try this out. Yep. So overall, this was it. Thanks a lot.